Hey guys, my name's Jake, and today I'm going to be trying the 3 marker challenge. This is one that's been around YouTube for a little bit now, but as my channel starts to grow, figured what the heck, I got to start trying some of these old challenges, right? For those that don't know, the challenge is to pull 3 randomly colored markers, and that's all you get to create a piece of art. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Let's give it a shot. All right, got our markers. I'm going to randomly select 3 of these. Before I do, I'm going to pull the black and the colorless blender out. I'm going to be using line art anyway, and I may use the colorless blender. So might as well dump these out. We're going to randomly select 3. We're going to randomly select 3 of these. This is going to be great audio. I've seen a handful of these videos, and because I'm a skeptical person, I always kind of question how random the picking is. So because of that, I have implemented a second camera to make sure that I am not peeking in the process of picking. So here we go. Let's get 3 markers. Number 1, 2, let's see what we got. We have sunflower, a nice yellow. Number 2, ooh, a lavender. All right. And number 3 is, oh man, all right, a cloud blue. Okay. So this is gonna be a pretty bright piece. We got our 3 colors here. Let's get going. Before diving into the full piece, I wanted to get a good idea of what I was working with. So I got out a piece of scrap paper and started swatching down the colors. First looking at the main color themselves, and then also layering each color with the one next to it. With these Ohuhu markers, I like to check how they layer in both directions. So when mixing the blue and yellow, for example, I alternate which one I lay down first, just to see if there's any change in the green that's created. Now, I really lucked out with this color selection because having a blue, yellow, and a purple basically gives me a full color wheel to work with. So I'm gonna have some options in terms of layering. In addition to checking how the colors mix, I'm also seeing how much I can lift the color with the colorless blender and mixing everything together to see how dark of a color I can get. I think trying to get some variation in tones will be really important in this piece. In trying to figure out what to draw, the yellow really reminded me of the eye color of an owl, so I figured I'd just roll with that. I laid out a quick rough sketch so I could lay down some colors, get an idea of what this thing would look like, and kind of came up with a composition with more of a purple-blue owl with those bright yellow eyes, and then kind of surrounding him with a more natural look using the mix of blue and yellow to create a nice green. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, so I'm gonna get my paper set up here really quick and go ahead and lay down a sketch. I'll save you the trouble of watching my sketching process, and we'll just jump right to it. With the sketch in place, I'm just gonna go over it with some Fineliners real quick just to refine the outline and to identify a few key details. Obviously the marker's gonna go on top of all this, so it doesn't have to be overly detailed, but I don't want my pencil marks muddying up the colors, so I'm gonna rely on this little bit of inking to provide me a good framework to work with. With the inking done, I'm gonna go through and start laying down colors. First, just color in the eyes real quick, just because that provides a really nice starting point, and then kind of go through a first pass with purple and then with blue on the owl to start pulling at that shape. Now, I know the one problem that I'm gonna have with this, and the one problem that I seem to always have with these Ohuhu markers, is that there's not a lot of tonal variation. The colors are really nice and really saturated, but I find that there's not really a good light tone, or at least a low opacity tone. And that can make it a little difficult to work with these. Granted, I'm sure there are a wider variety of these markers that I don't have, but working with what I've got, all of these colors are pretty saturated and don't offer a lot of tonal variation. With that in mind, I'm going to be really cognizant as I go through here to preserve as much white space as possible, because once it's down, I really can't lift it up. And if I were to just blindly color this thing and not leave any white space, the whole thing would look really flat. So in order to fix that, I'm going to leave the white space and try to layer the shadowed areas as much as possible to get a richer, darker color to just give me that little bit of tonal variation that is going to make this thing pop. With the owl pretty much colored in, I'm gonna go around to start coloring the leaves and flowers that kind of frame him. To do the leaves, I'm just laying down a quick layer of blue and then going over with yellow. And then I wanted to have the flowers be yellow because that's kind of the color that I've used the least so far in the piece. And I wanna make sure that I accentuate the 3 chosen colors as much as possible. I'm sure there's some that say I'm kind of cheating the challenge by mixing the colors as much as possible, but you gotta use what you got. I think part of this challenge is to figure out creative ways to work with limited resources, and you got to do what you can to make a cool piece. So with that, I have the green on the leaves, and then I'm also mixing the purple and the yellow around the branches to make a nice, rich, like orange brown. With all that done, I'm going to do a final pass with the Fineliners just to kind of solidify the outline a little bit. The markers obviously bleed during the drawing process, so I find that going around it with a Fineliner as a final touch just helps to crisp up the final product a little bit. And with that, let's take a look at this final piece. All right, just kidding. I thought I was done. I looked at it and stood back and really just felt that I just wasn't getting the oomph that I wanted out of this piece. It needed a little something, and while I think it is done to the spirit of the challenge, I wanted to go over with a little bit more fineliner work to try to bring out some of those details. So I think it was done and I completed the 3 marker challenge, but I also wanted to add a little something artistically that would make me a lot happier with the piece. So I'm going around with the Fineliners one more time, this time refining a lot more of the sections rather than just outlining, to add a little bit of hatching, to add a little bit of depth and detail into the piece. And I think this really helps to set it over the edge. So let's try this one more time. Let's take a look at those final shots. All right, and that will do it for this one. I know I kind of stretched it a little bit at the end there to add that line art. Not exactly what the 3 marker challenge is all about, but I think it added a little bit to the piece. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the final result of this project. I know I stretched the colors a little bit by doing a lot of mixing and definitely ended up with way more than 3 colors in the final piece, but it's with 3 markers, and kind of getting used to working with a limited color palette or limited supplies usually produces something pretty cool, and I'm pretty happy with this piece. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment, let me know what you thought. If you're enjoying the content as a whole, be sure to subscribe. We are this close to cracking 100 subscribers on the channel, which is super exciting. Thank you guys so much for helping this channel grow, and I just am excited about what's going to come in the future. That's about all I've got for this one. I've got I think a bigger project planned for the next video, so I'm super excited about that. Be sure to stay tuned, but until then, I'll see y'all next time.